The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn $70 per month in sports gambling transactions. Go to EdgeBoost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought by Rhythm, the leading data picks and props. A reminder, they're giving away $200 future, and a reminder, they're also throwing a March Madness party. Go to sportsgambling.com/party for details. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday night, March 6th, roughly 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also Scott Reichel, once again, going solo for this pod. Time to get into the second round of Indian Wells. We're going to break down some matches for the upcoming round. Not all of them. A reminder that it is definitely going to take too long. Plus, there are matches going on right now, so I don't have all the actual matchups officially, I'd say, announced yet. But we are missing a decent amount of lines for the second round. However, do have enough lines to do an episode. So as a result, we are going to be going through some of the second round matches coming up over the next day or two. Then we'll get into the lock and dog picks as always to wrap up the podcast. Before we do that, though, do want to remind me once again that you can show support for the show. But like, subscribing, and YouTube reminder, you can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, you can also check out the merch store, SGPN website. We have a lot of great Test Camp Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs, different colors, once again, high quality and very cheap. So I recommend getting yourself something. And a reminder for the actual network, we do have a great promo going on with the merch store. You can gear up for March with Merch Madness, promo code Madness for 20% off in the SGPN store. So at checkout, use promo code Madness for 20% off everything in the merch store, including Tennis Gambling Podcast merch. See some comments already? Once again, if you are listening to the live stream, don't forget you can jump in to the live stream conversation. See, Savage mentioning that Kyrgios is looking like his wrist is just not there. Yeah, he got injured actually in practice. I saw that he was shaking his wrist, I'd say, about a day ago. So I was actually going to potentially fade him. But I saw the Zanchel was like minus 250. So I decided not to. Thought about maybe going for the straight sets there, but decided once again to not bother because the Zanchel has not been good lately either. But yeah, Kyrgios injured his wrist in practice about a day or two ago, and he's trying to play through it. But it doesn't look good right now. Probably going to lose in straight sets, and we'll see if he ends up maybe even retiring from the match or maybe even the sport. But either way, he has not looked good, and we'll see what happens moving forward. The point is, time to start off with the recap of what happened in the first round. So we're going to break down the actual lock and dog picks that we ended up having. Last episode, we'll get into the recap of some matches that caught my eye, and then we'll move on into the second round preview. Starting off with the lock and dog, overall a great episode for us. Ended up sweeping. For the lock, we had Monfils, minus 1.5 games, minus 120 against Struff. I think it closed at like 2 or 2.5 games. Didn't matter as he covered all those numbers anyway, as he won in straight sets. Monfils looked great. Simply put, he had his pretty I'd say dicey finish to the match and actually finished to the first set because he was up a break, got broken, and then got the break right back afterwards. But once the wind kind of picked up midway through the day in Indian Wells, felt like Monfils had the much better conditions because we know that Struff has a lot of firepower, but a lot of unforced errors and a lack of discipline. So once the wind picked up, it felt like you were expecting Struff to have some of his overall strengths neutralized by the environment while Monfils would keep the ball in play, let the wind work to his advantage, and let Struff kind of just punt points in his favor. And that's what happened, as Monfils did win in straight sets, undefeated against Struff in the head-to-head, and that was the case once again on Thursday. So nice win there for the lock, really never in doubt. For the dog, nice win as well, as we had Griekspoor and Kekmanovic over 2.5 sets of plus 130. Back to head-to-head history, as every match they've had has gone to a deciding set, and the same thing happened on Wednesday, as that ended up going to 3. First set was a breaker. Then you ended up seeing the second set end 6-4. But point is, the head-to-head has been very competitive, been full of length in their meetings, and we saw the same thing happen in the first round here. So nice win for the dog as well. So once again, a nice lock and dog win. Hopefully we'll sweep again here in the second round of Indian Wells. See a comment, by the way, from Bill that it's a shame Venus pulled out. Yeah, definitely a tragedy. So the thing is, I can't even say that Venus pulled out because according to Venus, she didn't know she got invited to the event anyway. They just offered her a wild card and did not tell her about it. Allegedly, those are Venus's words, not mine. So I can't even blame Venus for pulling out of the event because she never knew that she was actually in the event in the first place, which I find a pretty weird scenario, but still, definitely a shame. She would have been like plus, I don't know, 1,000 anyway, but whatever. Venus is on vacation apparently in Europe, so she cannot attend the event. I see Savage mentioning that I actually did like Arnaldi as well. Yeah, Arnaldi got it done. Wasn't easy. Kovacevic, I thought might be, I'd say, a bit out of his skis here. I just thought Arnaldi was the better player. Definitely got dicey, though. Arnaldi was up a set in a break, though. Then he choked the second set away, but ended up rallying to win in 3. Truth is, to go back to what Savage said before about Kyrgios, I probably would have faded him in the first round episode, maybe for a lock or dog. But the problem was, one, I didn't know who the matchup was going to be because Dzanchov lost in qualifying and was a lucky loser. So we actually did not have that line available because we didn't know who he was going to play against. We did the episode a day or two early. So we couldn't really do the Kyrgios match because there was a last-second opponent replacement. But either way, a point is a pretty good first round for us for the lock and dog picks and for the futures as well, because we do have Monfils to win the quarter at plus 4,000. And he was able to get by the first round without that much damage, and he looked good in the process. Now, for the actual match recaps for the first round, here in Indian Wells, starting off with the, I'd say, common theme for the early portion, a lot of three-setters. You saw Nishikori outlast Munar in a very competitive three as he won the final set breaker. Boyer beat Vukic in three. Nice win for him. I saw Seaboth Wild beat Mueller in a final set breaker as well. So first three events in the tournament went to a final set breaker, which is pretty cool. You saw O'Connell beat Baena in three. Weird match. He had some neck issues. Lost the second set via bagel and then destroyed Baena in the third set. Saw Griekspoor win in three after dropping the first set to Kekmanovic. Saw Basaviretti come out flat against Boo. Didn't shock me. He really has not played that much tennis recently, so I'm not surprised that Boo, who's been more active recently, got the job done there in straight sets. Morozen beat Martinez. Saw Kaboli lose early. Gut lost again to the Zoomer. I think he's washed. I've mentioned this before. Opelka lost to Safulin. You saw Basilashvili get through qualifying and then lose to Giron in the first round. I ended up seeing Mutet beat Thompson in three. Nardi looked awful, and Nori killed him in straight sets. And you saw Watanuki beat Bublik. What a really bad year for Bublik. Loses again in the first round here. Fun match, competitive, but Watanuki did get the job done there. Moving on, you saw Shevchenko completely no-show the event as Hichikata buried him, only dropping 4 games. Brooksby had a nice comeback win, dropped the first set 1-6. They came back and won the next two sets 7-5, 7-5. Fonseca was actually down a break in the third set, came back in, I believe he won the last 5 games of the match against Fernley. Good competitive win there. Mensik beat Echeverry in straight sets. You saw Fekino lose. Not surprised. Fekino's played a lot of tennis recently. Did lose in the final in Delray and the final in Acapulco. Seemed like he was just out of gas, and you saw McDonald beat him in 3. Diallo was the last second fill-in, and he ended up beating Zhang in a final set breaker as well. Arnaldi beat Kovacevic in 3. You saw Gigante beat Baez in 3. Baez somehow won a hardcourt title before. Not a good hardcourt player, and Gigante got the job done. Nice job for him, or by him. Monfils won in straight sets. Gaston won in straight sets. He's quite been good recently. Went through qualifying, did not drop a set. Killed Darderi, who's really bad on hardcourt, and Gaston did win comfortably. Couple matches going on right now, though. You have Borges, who is currently in a third set against Rinderknech. Goffin is up a set in a break against Sonego. He's been playing better lately, so maybe we'll see if Goffin can close it out. Zeppieri's in a bit of a marathon first set with Walton, and Dzanchov is currently up a break, but down 15-40 in the 4-3 game. So Kyrgios slowly starting to climb back. Not a big Dzanchov guy. So I'm not surprised. The match is kind of full of momentum swings over the course of the first set. Now, the main takeaway or the main overall theme for the second day in particular of the event was the wind. Ton of wind. It was really amusing to watch, but not many, I'd say, great rallies in terms of quality because the wind was taking every ball about, I don't know, a couple inches to the left every time. So you had to see a lot of readjusting by the players, and as a result, you ended up seeing a lot of unforced errors, especially as the winds picked up, I'd say, towards the middle part of the afternoon. Unfortunately, though, there were a lot of men's matches I couldn't watch, at least on TV, because there were a bunch of women's matches on, including Raducanu. And I'm just going to speak quickly about it. Not going to spend too much time on it. I've mentioned Raducanu before. Tennis Channel's got to stop showing her matches. I understand Raducanu won the U.S. Open. I think it might be the flukiest Grand Slam title of all time. She's been awful ever since, and she got destroyed in the first round, and it was on TV. She's been so bad. And I feel like at some point you got to acknowledge that the actual audience doesn't really want to watch her play at this point. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe some of you agree with me. But when she's facing off against Uchijima and gets destroyed 6-3, 6-2, I'm not really interested in seeing Raducanu play. She loses all the time. I believe she has the worst WTA 1000 win percentage by any Grand Slam champion of all time. I think I saw that on Twitter earlier today. She's awful, and you got to stop putting her matches on TV. I get that once again, she might have a following. She has even a stalker based on the last tournament she was in. But watching her play on TV, I'll tell you right now, the results are not fluky. She is really, really bad. And I feel like at the same point, it's a great run. It's an all-time great run, a Cinderella story, one of the more unlikely winners of all time. And the final against Fernandez is an all-time crazy final. But I'm just based on the overall matchup itself and the long shot odds of that actually happening. But Raducanu's got to stop appearing on television until she figures it out again. I hope she can figure it out, but at the end of the day, she's just not playing good tennis, and it's painful to watch her play. Please show good players play instead. That's my only request for Tennis Channel. Yes, you have Tennis Channel Plus, you have Tennis Channel 2, you have a couple other tennis stuff if you want to pay extra for it. But for the sake of the main cable television, please put better players on TV. That's all I want to see. That's it. But Raducanu actually had to watch play, and she looked really bad. Anyway, moving on to the second round of Indian Wells. For that, though, I want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by our sponsor, EdgeBoost, because EdgeBoost partner up with SGPN, Premier Visit debit card for bettors. EdgeBoost card allows you the ability to avoid being hassled at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes, racetrack, or casino by having your card denied. And a reminder, you can earn cash rewards, $70 per month in cash rewards by using the EdgeBoost card. A reminder, your money's safe as the card's FDIC insured. And best part, no credit checks, completely free. Sign up today, use the code SGPN, and a reminder, you get better cash rewards into your status by using the promo code SGPN. Enter the bet promo code SGPN. Enter the promo code SGPN. We're also brought by MyBookie. MyBookie is the place to bet in every sport. They have props in every game. A reminder, they have a bunch of locations that they can accept customers from a ton of locations. So if you are not in a legal sports betting state, that's fine. Use MyBookie instead. You can also use crypto for easy deposits, lightning fast payouts. And a reminder, you can also use the promo code SGPN. When you do look at MyBookie.ag for your new account, use the code SGPN. 400% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished recapping what happened in the first round. Time to move on into the second round of Indian Wells. Starting off with the first match we're going to talk about. Once again, we're going to skip a couple matches because, one, we don't have lines. Two, we're actually going to save a couple of matches for the lock and dog picks. So starting off with the first match we're going to talk about, you have a match taking place between Griekspoor and Zverev. A very solid match, actually, for the second round. Zverev's minus 360. Griekspoor's plus 300. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Zverev, plus 3.5 for Griekspoor. For the set spread here, you have minus 1.5 sets for Zverev at minus 130. You have Griekspoor to win a set at plus 100. The over 2.5 sets is plus 160. Now, for the matchup, faced off 7 times, Zverev has owned the head-to-head. He's currently 6-1. However, 2 of the last 3 meetings did go to a deciding set. Faced off in Paris last year, Zverev did win in straight sets, but there was a breaker in there. Shanghai earlier that same year saw Zverev win in a final set breaker, as that was a competitive match. Faced off in the French Open. I believe Griekspoor is up 2 breaks in the final set. Zverev came back and won in final set breaker. Indian Wells faced off last year, though. Zverev did win in straight sets. So the fact that they faced off before, in the exact same court actually last year, and Zverev won in straight sets. Now, I want to go for the tie break because you have seen a lot of breakers in the head-to-head. In fact, if I want to actually dive through it, each of the last 5 head-to-head meetings have had a tie break. If you want to actually back that, you actually can. But the point is, you've seen pretty interesting conditions here in Indian Wells. The courts have been playing maybe a little bit faster than usual, but based on the actual court surface change. But I do think you're looking at the actual, I'd say, courts still playing pretty slowly. As a result, not many breakers recently, and the wind can definitely play a factor too. But both guys, I feel like, should result in a pretty competitive battle. Zverev has not played well since the Aussie Open, and you are looking at Griekspoor playing well. Made a good run in Dubai, lost in the semis to the eventual champion Tsitsipas, ended up beating Medvedev in the quarters there to help us cash a 9-1 outright. But I think you're looking at what should be a good matchup. Now, if you want to go for the breaker and you want to go for that result, you can get basically even money on the breaker. That would be my main play for this one. 5 straight head-to-head meetings, I think it's a good option. We know Griekspoor has been quietly the tie-break king so far this year, and I do think that Zverev should look sharp as the match goes on, but I can see, once again, a breaker in there. That's my main option. I don't see much value on Zverev, in my opinion, at minus 360. Minus 1.5 sets at minus 130, I'll pass. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets at plus 160 for value, but I prefer the breaker, actually, at around even money, just based on head-to-head history. That's my main thoughts on that one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Morozin against Perricard, basically a pick'em for this one. So Morozin's minus 125. He's basically minus 110 though in some spots, but some books have him favored. Pericard's plus 105 for the actual game spread, minus a half for Morozin, plus half from Pericard. The over-under in games set at 23.5. For the set spread for this one, you have the over 2.5 sets at plus 130. Pericard to win straight sets is plus 200. You have Morozin to win in straight sets at plus 220. Now, for the head-to-head history, there is none, so can't really use it, but the point is the courts are going to be really, really interesting to see how Pericard handles, because you might see him struggle a bit with these slow-paced courts, and it also might be windy. Now, it should not be as windy as it was today on Thursday, so the wind seems to be picking up a bit more in the middle of the afternoon, and I believe the Pericard match is around 2. I think the wind's supposed to be at its peak tomorrow at around like 5 or 6. So once again, they should be able to avoid any serious wind that should be affecting the matches later on in the day. But I think you're looking at a close matchup. I'm on the over in this one. We know Morozin is not afraid of dropping sets left and right. Did beat Martinez, who's more of a clay guy, in straight sets. Did drop, once again, 2 sets to Agut, who we know I think is washed at this point. Should have won that match, but ended up losing in a final set breaker. Lost in straight sets to Leheshka. Had a pretty competitive match against Dugas, 7-5, 6-3. Was a massive favorite there. The point is he does drop sets. So based on that, I can't see Pericard having a competitive match here. I think the serve will be tough to handle, assuming the wind isn't too much to deal with. And I think you're looking at what should be a close matchup. I don't mind the underdog here of 4+ money. But for the actual matchup itself, give me the over. I don't mind potentially each set going to a breaker, but I think you're looking at what should be a close matchup. Give me the over 4 sets and the games here. I think 23.5 is too low. I'll go with the over for that one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Norrie against Leheshka. So for this one, Norrie looked great in the first round, only dropping 3 games to Nardi. Now, Leheshka had a bye in the first round. Minus 184. For Leheshka, plus 159 for Norrie. You have the spread of 2.5 games for Leheshka, plus 2.5 for Norrie. The over-under in games is set at 22.5. For the set spread, you have Leheshka in straight sets at plus 140. You have Norrie to win a set at minus 170. And if you want Norrie in straight sets, you can get that at plus 325. The over 2.5 sets is plus 135. Now, for this one, I do like the over for the 2.5 sets. Face off 3 times in their careers. Bit dated, though. They've not met since 2023. However, all 3 meetings did not in straight sets. In fact, all 3 meetings went the distance, faced off in the Australian Open. 2023, Leheshka won in 3 sets. Auckland, you saw Norrie win in 3 in 2023 as well. In 2021, you saw Norrie win in 3 sets in the Davis Cup. So, point is, you've seen a lot of head-to-head, I'd say, battles between them. And I can see the similar, I'd say, script here. Norrie, though, has been very good in Indian Wells in the past, former champion, I believe. And you're looking at Leheshka, who has firepower. He's solid, but if the wind does act up, I think it can work to Norrie's advantage, who focuses more on a rally-based game. But I think you're looking at a close matchup. I'll go with Leheshka to win. I just trust him more than Norrie. But Norrie has looked sharper recently, and I do think with the courts here in Indian Wells, he's comfortable. I don't want the dog here for at least keeping it close for the game spread and maybe the over, but I like the over 2.5 at the plus 135. I don't mind the over in games as well, and I think Norrie could cover the 2.5. I would prefer 3 if I could get it, but I think that it's going to be Leheshka in a close 3-set battle if I had to guess the outcome for that one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Ruud against Giron. So for this one, Ruud is a favorite, but not that big of a favorite. He is around minus 175. You have Giron at plus 155. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Ruud. You have plus 2.5 for Giron. The over-unders at 22.5. For the over-under sets, over 2.5 sets is plus 135. Ruud in straight sets is plus 150. Faced off 3 times in their careers, and you're looking at a bunch of lopsided affairs, actually. Each of the 3 meetings in their careers ended in straight sets, and the losing player won less than 8 games. In fact, in 2 of the 3 meetings, the losing player won less than 4 games. Faced off last year in Los Cabos, Ruud won 6-1, 6-0. So you've seen a lot of lopsided tennis when they face off. Now, Ruud had a weird event in Dallas, did make a deep run, did lose to Shapo, and in the final, who, of course, ended up winning the whole thing, ended up beating Rinderknech in Acapulco, then had a walkover because of food poisoning against Mendez. So he looked good against Rinderknech, but Rinderknech isn't very good, and then he ended up getting sick. He should be fine. For this event, he has not played in about a week, so he should be healthy. Giron, though, has been fine. Giron ended up having a nice win against Basilashvili in the first round. Ended up losing to Shapo in Acapulco in 3. So he's been playing fine. Lost to Kekmanovic in the second match, in Del Rey, but he eventually won the tournament, so no shame in that. So based on the matchup, I think that it should be a fun matchup, but based on the head-to-head and the lopsided nature for the winning player, I think Ruud probably wins and covers. I think that Giron will have some crowd support, but Ruud is a pretty well-liked guy. I know it's in America, so Giron should have support, I'd say, by comparison. But I think that Giron is going to, I'd say, find some moments where he could capitalize, but I think it'll fall short. Maybe it goes 3, but I think Ruud wins. I think 2.5 games feels a bit short, and I think that Ruud should get the job done by like 3 or 4. Maybe it turns into a match that we saw between Arnaldi and Kovacevic, where Ruud covers, but it goes 3 anyway. That wouldn't shock me either. I think Ruud, though, is in better form, and I think that if he's healthy, he would be my pick to get the job done. I think Ruud is just going to be a little bit too much to handle with the, I'd say, topspin forehand. I think that'll give him the advantage over Giron, who hits the ball pretty flat, and that's going to be my main, I'd say, advantage for Ruud here. Give me Ruud to showcase the topspin to get the job done here and to win what should be, in my opinion, a competitive straight sets win for him. Moving on to the next match. We're going to jump around a little bit. For this one, what are we going to go with here? Think we'll go with the Safulin match against Musetti. So for this one, Musetti is actually a dog here. He's plus 116. Safulin's minus 136 for the spread, minus 1.5 for Safulin, plus 1.5 for Musetti. The over-under is at 22.5 games. For the over 2.5 sets, plus 130. And you have Musetti to win in straight sets at plus 260. Safulin to win in straight sets at plus 170. Face off 3 times in their careers. Safulin's actually 2-1. However, faced off last year in Miami, and Musetti did win 7-5. 6-1. Now, Safulin has been playing better recently, ended up winning a couple of matches in Dubai, went through qualifying, beating Basilashvili and Vertana, did lose in a marathon match to Griekspoor at a couple match points, and did lose eventually in 3. Beat Opelka, though, in the first round in Indian Wells. As for Musetti, has not played for a while, because we saw him lose in the Aussie Open to Shelton in 4. Good match there. Ended up beating Mutet in the first round of Buenos Aires about a month ago. Then he got injured and has not played since. So we'll see how healthy he looks for this one. But he has not played a hard court match in basically 2 months since the Australian Open. And we'll see how he looks based on the injury he had to his leg or foot. I don't remember which one it was. So we'll see how healthy he looks. But I think based on the layoff he's had, I think I agree with Safulin being the favorite. I said before, Safulin's 2-1 in the head-to-head. All 3 meetings were on hard court, and Safulin did not drop a set in either of those wins. So I think it makes sense. Safulin, I thought, looked good against a good server in Opelka. I think you're looking at him being, in my opinion, the player that I expect to look sharper over the course of this match. But based on the layoff for Musetti, don't exactly trust him. And I do think that Musetti, before I back him again, I'll have to wait to see how he looks post-injury. So with that being the case, I'll go with Safulin to get the job done. I think it makes sense that Safulin is the favorite despite being about 50 rankings lower than Musetti in the ATP poll, or the ATP rankings. So based on that, I will go with Safulin to get the job done for this one. I think we'll do maybe 1 or 2 more. Once again, I am skipping a lot of matches for the actual card on Saturday. But I'm missing a bunch of lines. So, like, Rublev Arnaldi, I don't have. Monfils Korda, I don't have. Hurkacz Gaston, I don't have. Brooksby Felix, I actually do have. Draper and Fonseca, though, I have. So I'll actually go to that one. That is one of the matches of the round. Draper's minus 149 on the money line. You have Fonseca at around plus 120. For the, once again, head-to-head history, there is none. Now, Fonseca did not look great against Fernley, but he was able to get the job done in 3. Fernley kind of fell apart there late in that third set. Meanwhile, Draper had a bye, had a good run, though, in Doha, lost in the semis to, or was at the final. Lost in the final, to Rublev, and he has not played since. So Draper, we know, is a solid player, made the semis of the U.S. Open last year, so he's definitely the better hardcourt player at this point. Fonseca's got firepower. I recognize it. Did win a title on clay in Buenos Aires a couple weeks ago, but I think we'd agree Fonseca still has a ways to go before it's officially a top 10 player. Was able to beat Rublev, though, in the first round of the Aussie Open, then lost to Sonego in a 5. But Draper, I just think is more consistent. Fonseca really didn't look that great in the first round. Got the job done, but I think that Draper is the better player at this point. I think Draper should be a bigger favorite, in my opinion. I see Savage agrees with me. I think the games will be around 1.5 or so. I think that's a little bit low, maybe too flat. I think Draper should cover that. Yes, I understand Fonseca, when the forehand is on, it's very dangerous, but Draper, I think, will be able to extract errors from Fonseca. I said before that having a good rally tolerance is very important on the courts here because of the actual wind and the possibility of having a potential marathon set, and with these slower courts, it could play a factor by forcing unforced errors by your opponent. I think Draper will look better over the course of these 2-3 sets. Might go 3, we'll see, but I think that Draper's the better player, especially in 2025 at this point. So I'll go with Draper to get the job done here at what I think should be a bigger price. I think Draper, based on how Fonseca looked in that first round, should be a bigger dog. Draper should be like minus 200 in my opinion, but I think that minus 149 is a good price. I don't mind the games though, probably 1.5. I think that'll be my main play for that one. Moving on to the last match we'll talk about. Said before that we don't have many lines available, but we do have a line on. Do I want to talk about Brooksby and Felix? Not really, to be honest. I think I'll look at the Hijikata match against Nakashima. So for this one, Nakashima is minus 250. You have Hijikata at plus 200. Head-to-head history, though, is definitely in favor of Nakashima. He's currently 3-1. However, Hijikata did beat him earlier this year. Won the first time against him, and that was in Adelaide back in early January. So we saw Hijikata outlast Nakashima in the first round, or I should say in Adelaide. Now they're facing off again here in the second round of Indian Wells. Now Nakashima has been pretty up and down so far this year. Made a deep run in Acapulco, mainly because Rune got injured and had to retire with food poisoning, but he made it into the semis and lost to Makic in 3. We saw him lose early in Delray, though, so I don't exactly know, once again, what to expect from Nakashima. Nakashima might be the chocolate box of the ATP, because you never know what you're going to get. It's just a complete psycho performance one way or another. Either he's really good or he's really bad. He is the Forrest Gump box of chocolates of the ATP Tour. Now, for Hijikata, he's been up and down lately too. Did beat Shevchenko comfortably in the first round. We saw him lose to Goffin in Acapulco. Goffin did beat Shelton, though, so he looked pretty good in that event. But the point is, he was on a bit of a slump. Did lose to Boo and lost to Makic in straight sets in Dallas. Competitively, but still lost in straight sets. So the point is, do I want to lay 250 with Nakashima? No, I do not. I think Nakashima is a guy that I don't exactly want to be laying anything with because I don't trust him. But I think that he should have the crowd advantage here. I think Nakashima is the better player, but at the same point, I think it's a pretty big money line. I think that Hijikata can keep this close. I think you're looking at what should be interesting matchup. Now, I do want to point out, though, Nakashima is from California. He's from San Diego. So there will be a lot of, I'd say, homecoming fans for him in the stands. So that should help him out. But I think that Hijikata, if he's able to capitalize on the wind, which I think should play a factor, he can make this interesting, especially if Nakashima has to try to win long rallies in the wind, and if the first serve percentage does get compromised because of the environment, I think it could be a bad spot for him. I think he'll win, but I think it's going to be a closer match. I don't mind Nakashima once again to win the match, but I think it'll be close. Give me Hijikata to win a set if I had to go for anything here. Said before, Nakashima is currently 3-1, but once again, I think you're looking at Hijikata, who might have some confidence against him after finally getting over the finish line against him earlier this year. But Nakashima, I don't trust at this price. I'll go with the dog to make this close, but to lose eventually, as I will pick Nakashima to win in 3. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the second round. Apologies again, I'm missing a bunch of lines from the matches today, because that would have resulted in getting second round matches, but unfortunately, the lines are not up yet. So we're going to have to wait on those. But either way, points, that's going to wrap it up for the actual preview of the second round. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For that, though, remember once again that we are brought to you by our sponsor, Rhythm, because Rhythm's having an epic March Madness party that'll be at actually in Vegas, and you're all invited. Or the users are invited to the First for Watch party Wednesday, March 19th at the Awesome Circus Stadium Swim at Circle Las Vegas. Free drinks, plus you get to hang out with the guys from SGPN. And a reminder, gets better. They're giving away a free $200 March Madness future for one lucky Rhythm user. And a reminder, if you cannot make the party, that's fine. You can still be entered into the giveaway for the future. Come by and let Rhythm help you with your bracket. Make some bets also while you're there. Rhythm's Arch Madness stats and success from 2024 with UConn winning. The percentage of winners was 39% higher than in ESPN brackets as a whole. Rhythm had 34% of brackets. ESPN had 24.7% of brackets. Rhythm also predicted Duquesne to make a respectable run, beating BYU. NC State making a deep run as well, and Oakland upsets. 45% of Rhythm brackets had NC State reaching the Sweet 16. So once again, a lot of data supporting I'd say an assistance from rhythm for your brackets. And a reminder, free party plus a chance to $50 future bet. Go to sportsgames.com/party for details. Sportsgames.com/party for details. Also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they have a lot of great options on their Underdog Pick'em. They have the NBA, NHL, college basketball, tennis, etc. Whatever sport you can think of, you can cash in on and win with Underdog Pick'em. A reminder, they're also offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the season. And a reminder, for the actual promo code, if you want to sign up for your new account, use the code SGPN to claim a special pick in your first time deposit offer for 1K bonus cash. So special pick in your first time deposit offer up to 1K bonus cash when you use the promo code SGPN when you sign up for your new account. On our fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Scam Podcast. Finish breaking down the second round. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I am going to go with the actual parlay option. We're going to go with the Humbert money line, parlayed with Paul in straight sets, and that pays out at minus 107. I believe that was on, I'm trying to remember, DraftKings or FanDuel. It was one of the two. I think it was FanDuel. So starting off with the Humbert match, Nishikori did a good job winning against Munar. However, physically, he was falling apart over the course of that match. In the third set, called for the trainer, had some leg issues, had some cramping in the late stages, did win anyway because he's an absolute warrior. But the point is, I do question how sharp he's going to look against a much better player. Munar's been having a pretty good year, but I think we'd agree Humbert's much better on hard court. He's a top 10 player in the world based on caliber, in my opinion, on hard court. He won a title this year. He is solid, and I think that Nishikori, if he's able to even make it deep in this match, I question the fitness for this one. But you're looking at Nishikori, who has played only one match, and that was against Munar at Indian Wells. The only match he's played here since 2019. He's had injuries, has not been here for a while. So based on that, I see a pretty rough spot for Nishikori, and you're looking at a spot where I think that Humbert is just much better at the stage in their careers. So give me Humbert on the money line is my first choice for the actual parlay. Second choice is going to be Paul in straight sets. Boyer was able to beat Vukic in the first round. I watched it. It was not pretty. In fact, he was down a break in the third set. Vukic we saw lose to Mendez, a complete unknown Mexican player in Acapulco, so it's not like Vukic was in good form. Boyer, though, has not really played great tennis recently. He was able to get over the finish line against a player that was in pretty bad form, and that was an absolute war going to a final set breaker. Paul, we saw look good in the first round in Acapulco, had food poisoning. He ended up having to quit. But Paul, we saw him make a pretty good run in Dallas, losing the semis to Shapo. He's the better player, and I think that he should look comfortable against Boyer, who is more of a challenger guy at this point. So give me, once again, the two-pick parlay. I'll go with Humbert money line, parlayed with Paul straight sets at minus 107 on FanDuel as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the matchup between Watanuki and Makic. And I'm actually going to go with Watanuki to win a set at plus 105. Now, Watanuki has played 3 matches here, including qualifying. He's been really, really good when they're qualifying, not dropping a set. Beat Bublik in the first round in 3. Point is, he's been playing good tennis, and he should be adjusted to the environment here. As for Makic, it's a pretty interesting spot because he's off a bye, as he did not play in the first round. Also, might take some time for him to get used to the courts and the wind in Indian Wells. And I want to point out, Makic did just win a title. First ever title. He did win Acapulco. Might be a big letdown spot. It's pretty tough to immediately come back to play a 1,000 after winning a 500 title for the first time in your career. I do wonder if Makic will feel the, once again, nerves or maybe just the lack of intensity early on after winning the biggest match of his career against Fokina a couple of days ago. Point is, though, and they're looking at a spot where Makic should look fine as the match goes on. But can I see him struggling early? I can. I think Watanuki's played well. I think that he's a pretty underrated player in general. Pretty good serve as well. But with the guy that's only dropped 1 set, including qualifying, in 3 matches against the guy who has not played since winning his first ever title, I think it's a pretty bad letdown spot for Makic. I think he might win once again, but Watanuki to win a set of plus money, I think is a good price. I'll go with that as my dog. So once again, the plays here for the lock and dog for the second round in Indian Wells. The lock's going to be on Humbert. Money line with Paul straight sets as a parlay at minus 107. Dog will be on Watanuki to win a set against Makic at plus 105. That's going to wrap it up for the second. Remember, back once again for the third round of Indian Wells in about a day or two. Till then, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Find me on the NBA show, the MLB show, the Propcast as well. And until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.